my op-ed today, my Hartmann Report Daily Take. It's titled "The Dark Rise of America's Monsters." And I point out that, you know, across Iran and the Caribbean, Trump and his lickspittles are just delighting in the killing of people, as if they were like, you know, expendable scenery, not human beings with loved ones and families. And they're ignoring the death and destruction of their fellow psychopath, Putin, that he rains down on Ukraine every night. India and America invited Iran to send an unarmed ship to the Indian Ocean to participate in military exercises. And Trump and Whiskey Pete decided it'd be fun to blow it out of the water, leaving over 100 sailors miles from shore, desperate for a rescue. And instead of saving them, as international law requires, they just left them to drown. Whiskey Pete called it quiet death. In fact, there was a lot of screaming and sobbing, although the bombers couldn't hear it from 20,000 feet, and Hegseth couldn't hear it in his drunken haze. This is just like the boat that they blew up at the Caribbean, where there was that piece of debris that the two guys were hanging on to. And as the illegal, unmarked plane comes back, they thought it was coming to rescue them. They're waving to it, and it blows them into bits of blood and gristle. And then there's Nosferatu, you know, Stephen Miller, talking about how after they bombed the girls' school in Iran, killing 160 children, this is what he had to say. He said, what you're seeing right now is a military under President Trump's leadership that is not fighting politically correct. That isn't fighting with its hands tied behind its back. And Whiskey Pete bragged, no stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. Yeah, just blow up 160 little girls. No problem. When he was asked about the 6 American soldiers who were killed because Putin is now helping Iran target Americans in the region, Hegseth's reply was equally disgusting. He said, oh, when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad. Really? Talking about 160 little girls killed by our military? Because perhaps we were using ChatGPT to target things, and the building that the girls were in is near an Iranian military installation, and some years ago, maybe a decade ago, was used for the military. You know, these AI programs are notorious for out-of-date data. Yeah. Talk about it, it's just to make the president look bad, right? These are the same ghouls who were delighted, who were thrilled when Renee Good got shot in the face and Alex Preddy was shot 10 times in the back. They went on TV, they were giddy, smearing them as domestic terrorists. They've killed dozens of people in their concentration camps around the country. And then there's Russell Vought, you know, the architect of Project 2025, who gleefully oversaw the firing of hundreds of thousands of federal workers, shattering their lives and their families. And he says, quote, we want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they're increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma. Right. Trauma. That's what Republicans today love, right? It's their drug of choice. And Vought and Musk's massive tax cuts to the federal workforce to pay for their tax break, massive cuts to the federal workforce, laying off people to pay for their massive tax cuts for billionaires. In this case, they laid off thousands of people from the National Weather Service. So this weekend in Michigan, there was a series of tornadoes and people got little to no warning. 3 people are dead, 9 people are in the hospital. No warning. The National Weather Service offices are understaffed now. Of course, they weren't billionaires, so their lives don't matter much, right? Like the millions who lost their health insurance because the big, beautiful bill slashed ACA benefits, or the Medicaid revenue, all that stuff set aside so that we could have another $1 trillion in tax cuts for the morbidly rich. Or the pregnant women across red states who are dying at more than twice the rate of pregnant women in blue states because of these outrageous Republican anti-abortion laws. You know, Trump, Hegseth, Vance, Miller, Levitt, this whole group of psychopaths think that This stuff makes them seem macho and tough, and apparently about 90% of Republicans agree with them. What it really does is reveal them as psychopaths, as the very human embodiment of evil. If they'd been born in different times or places, they'd be Ted Bundys or Charles Mansons. And their GOP followers would be the good Germans who are saluting and smiling as the boxcars roll by. When those 6 U.S. service members were killed by Iranian retaliation, Trump refused to remove his $50 souvenir hat, available for sale on his website, or even bow his head, and shrugged, saying, sadly, there'll likely be more. That's the way it is. Those soldiers are just suckers and losers, after all, according to Trump's worldview. They should have had the good sense of the Trump men to have bone spurs. Or like Grandpa Trump, who fled Germany after they kicked him out because he refused to show up for the draft. And then there's War Secretary Hegseth with his Crusader cross and his Diaz Volt tattoos, bragging that we've only just begun putting narco-terrorists at the bottom of the ocean, with no interest about who's actually on the boats. I mean, if this is actually drug interdiction, you'd interdict the drugs. You'd stop the boats. But no, this is killing from the skies. This isn't the language of leaders reluctantly using force as a last resort. This is the rhetoric of psychopaths who see the rest of humanity as disposable, as dots in a video game, as objects whose death is their entertainment, as long as their luxury and power are secured. Elon Musk throws $250 million into the 2024 election, so Trump lets him kill millions of black and brown children around the world by dismantling USAID. When a college Republican chat room devolves into Hitler-loving, black and Hispanic hating rhetoric, it's just Thursday. Just like Musk giving the Nazis salute twice. My dad's Republican Party, Mitt Romney's Republican Party, John McCain's Republican Party, Eisenhower's Republican Party is long dead and gone. And in its place is this cult built on grievance, paranoia, white supremacy, and a love for authoritarian strongmen like Putin and Orban. They delight in death and destruction. They love the language of blood and gore. They are monsters. You know, there's a bunch of news sources out there that actually charge you. You know, if you want to subscribe to, many of the newsletters out there, Axios and stuff like that, you got to buy a subscription. You want to read The Nation, you want to read, on and on it goes, right? Free Speech TV is free. It's not just free speech, it's free speech. And it's available to anybody. I mean, you can watch it on the internet, you can watch it on Dish, you can watch it on Direct, you can watch it on, it's all over. And that's because people like you and me, support Free Speech TV. We make this happen. You're the one who's making this happen. If you're contributing to Free Speech TV, and particularly if you're doing it on a monthly basis, those are the most important contributions. Although anything is needed right now. I mean, we didn't hit our goal last time. Please help us hit our goal this time. This is a critical time for Free Speech TV in America. Please show up. Thank Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no navy, no air force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every dollar billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants. ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, top of the Tuesday to you. The most dangerous weapon ever aimed at America is not a missile. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Also, did 300 billionaires just buy America's democracy? We'll get into that in this first hour. And is Putin now calling the shots in Trump's Iran war? Sure looks like it. I'll give you the details on that, too. In the second hour of our program, Lev Parnas is going to drop by, the Ukrainian-born former associate of Donald Trump's, the guy who went to Ukraine with Rudy Giuliani looking for dirt on Joe Biden. He's going to drop by. He says, while the world looks away, Ukraine is still suffering. Also, did Bob Kennedy stack the vaccine review deck with someone who makes stuff up? Sure looks like it. And is Dr. Oz's real job to kick people off, sick people, off their health insurance? Sure looks like that, too. I'll tell you about, well, you know, the billionaires who fund these guys, and Dr. Oz is no slouch himself, they don't want to have to pay taxes for your health insurance. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Anyhow, we'll get into that in the second hour of the program. In the third hour of our program, will Trump's Iran war convince North Korea it needs more nukes? And will it convince other countries around the world that they need to get nukes? Also, how the story from the woman who is alleging that Trump raped her when she was 13 years old, this story is getting more and more solid as reporters are digging out more and more details around it. I'll share those with you in the third hour of our program. Today's also the day for primary elections in the state of Georgia. We'll be keeping an eye on that, but I think most of the reporting on that will be tomorrow. My op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com, my daily take, is titled, "The Most Dangerous Weapon Ever Aimed at America Isn't a Missile." So what is it? Well, it gets right down to this. If a government can convince you, or a political party, you know, can convince a large enough portion of the country that reality isn't what we think it is, that lies are truth, that up is down, that black is white. I mean, you know, pick your cliche or metaphor. If a government can convince you of that, they can do pretty much anything. And this has been the essence of this 50-year-long campaign by right-wing billionaires in the United States to convince Americans uniquely that, you know, that up is down. That these are not small things, by the way. What they're trying to do is destroy the concept of shared truth. There was an interesting Pew study that was just published. Robert Reich was writing about it yesterday, that found that the majority of Americans think that their fellow Americans are bad people. The majority of Canadians think their fellow Canadians are wonderful people. What accounts for the difference? The GOP, basically. The Republican Party, since Reagan, has been telling us that up is down. And now you got Trump saying that, you know, if you can convince people of lies, you can get away with anything. You can bomb a school full of little girls and blame the victims. Trump just did that. Oh, yeah, we think Iran killed them. You can try and rig an election, and when you lose, you can call it stolen from you. You can watch millions die from COVID and then claim that the virus is just going to disappear. Just go back to work. You can claim tax cuts for billionaires will help out average working class people. You can say that increasing the level of poison in our air or the amount of glyphosate of Roundup on our crops is actually going to make America healthy again. You can argue that destroying unions will increase working people's standard of living. You can claim that taking away their health care encourages individual initiative and independence. You get how this works? These right-wing billionaires who have been on this crusade since the Reagan administration. I mean, you could argue it started in 1971 with the Powell memo. Lewis Powell in 71 wrote this memo to Eugene Sindor, his next-door neighbor and friend, who was the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce at the time, and cited Ralph Nader and said, Ralph Nader is essentially the leading edge of the communist takeover of America. It's going to destroy American free enterprise. And so we've got to take over the schools. We've got to take over the colleges. We've got to take over the churches or bring them into the fold. We've got to take over the judiciary. We've got to take over Congress. We've got to take over the newspaper and the media and radio and television. We've got to fill basically every slot in American society with right-wing voices convincing people that taxing billionaires to pay for all this social welfare stuff is a bad idea. Because, you know, these billionaires thought that's socialism. And they hate socialism. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to have taxes. So what did they do? Well, they started in the 1970s. Think tanks funded to produce alternative academic research that would always reach the right conclusions. These think tanks are telling us that climate change is a hoax, that tax cuts on billionaires trickle down to average working people, that COVID vaccines are dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. Conservative media was built from the ground up, 1,500 AM talk stations, Fox so-called news, right-wing takeover of social media, all to create an ecosystem where Republican voters never have to confront uncomfortable facts. Public schools and civics classes were defunded and attacked because an educated citizenry asked too many questions. Local newspapers, the institutions that typically hold local power to account, gutted, starved out of existence. Charles and David Koch alone spent hundreds of millions of dollars seeding distrust in climate science and government, and the very idea that collective action through government can produce the solution to collective problems. And they were just the tip of a massive iceberg. This wasn't an accident. This was a strategy. And that strategy had basically one ultimate goal: to create a population of Americans who were so skeptical of our institutions, so distrustful of expertise, so certain that everyone is lying all the time, that they'd be willing to believe anything. Donald Trump didn't create these people. I think we make a mistake by constantly pointing at Trump, because this is something that is institutional within the Republican Party. These people, these right-wing billionaires, have taken over the Republican Party. They've bought it with help from 5 right-wingers on the U.S. Supreme Court. And that means that removing Trump from power, or when Trump leaves office, one way or the other, the problem's not going to go away. You're still stuck with the right-wing billionaires, the right-wing media, and all the lies. I mean, you know, this has been working really well, this dishonesty, lies, as a governing strategy. It has worked for Trump the same way it worked for Mussolini, for Hitler, for Putin, for Orban. He told people that Obama was a secret Kenyan. Millions of people still believe that. He told people 3 million illegal ballots were cast against him in 2016. Millions of people believed that. He told people COVID would disappear. One day like a miracle, it'll just go away. Over 500,000 Americans are dead because of that lie. And then he told the biggest lie of all that almost ended our democracy, that the election of 2020 was stolen from him. And again, you know, 70, 80% of Republicans to this day believe that lie. After 60-plus lawsuits, it's been thrown out by every court, including the Supreme Court. Nevertheless, he lied about it anyway, and he continues to lie about it. So this is the critical thing that I think it's so important that we all understand, is that democracy isn't our Constitution or some building someplace or the government. Democracy is a shared understanding of reality. And that shared understanding of reality has been under attack by the right, by these right-wing billionaires, by the right-wing media that they've built, by the right-wing think tanks that they've funded, and by the right-wing politicians that they have bought and that they have brought into power for 50 years now. And we are seeing the results of it today. And that result is very, very ugly. We've been lied into a war in Iran. We were lied into a war with Iraq. Half of America can't do, 60% of America can't deal with a $400 expense. We're hanging on by our teeth here because of these right-wing lies. 50 years of these right-wing lies, and the right-wing media infrastructure and the right-wing billionaires who support them. When you get into the elections, it gets even crazier. I'll tell you about that after the break. But we've got to push back on this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
One of the ways to do it, by the way, is to support media that actually tells the truth. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Christopher in Vancouver. Hey, Christopher, what's up?
Hey, Tom, good morning. I heard some crazy news yesterday. Maybe you heard it too. The FBI raided Arizona for their voter data, and they got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
So it caused me to call our local election officials here, and I spoke with them, and they said that they heard from a top ICE official that they will not be surrounding our ballot boxes.
Right. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I don't believe it.
I don't either. I think that this whole, the reason that they raided Arizona yesterday is the same reason that they raided Georgia a month ago, and that is that they're trying to build a case that there's enough election fraud, voter fraud going on in the United States that radical solutions are necessary, like ending mail-in voting, like having, triple check voter ID, that, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just naked voter suppression. Voter suppression has been their favorite and their most successful strategy. I mean, voter suppression is the only reason Trump is in the White House and Republicans control the House of Representatives right now.
Well, our Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs, told the DOJ, no, we're not giving that data away.
Yeah.
The DOJ sued Washington State, and the federal judge dismissed it. I believe that the DOJ is going to appeal that. So it's still in. There's so many things going on right now. This is really important.
Yeah, it is. The same thing is happening in Oregon, by the way, Christopher. But we're not swing states. We're not the ones that they really care about. The states that they really care about are Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Indiana. I mean, the swing states basically are states that could become swing states. And those are the places where they're going to come down with a heavy fist.
And the three keys that the voting official told me: check your voter status, vote wa.gov, vote early, and track your vote, vote wa.gov. Right. Because this is going to be key. This is on the ground.
No, I agree.
They don't care.
I agree.
They're going to steal.
No, well said, Christopher. And vote.org is also a resource. Thank you, Christopher. Bob in Joliet, Illinois. Or Rob, excuse me. Yeah, Bob. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. Pleasure to talk with you, sir.
Thank you.
I wish you would. You're one of my favorite people to listen to of anybody. I'm always on MS Now and a few other sources that are like-minded. And I wish you would lead the charge, perhaps. I know you've voiced some concerns about this recently with Trump canceling the elections and or declaring martial law to enable that.
Yeah, I think the latter is more probable.
Everything I could find. I'm sorry?
I think the latter is more probable. He can't cancel the state-level elections, but he can mess with them.
Well, he might be able to mess with them, but from my research, the only thing I have found recently enabling martial law, it does not give him any authority whatsoever to cancel any elections.
No, we had elections during the Civil War.
Yes, exactly. That was my point. We've had elections in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, on and on it goes.
War of 1812.
There is no national emergency that should preempt that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Bob, and you're absolutely right. But that doesn't mean that they can't figure out ways to mess with it, like knocking people off the voting rolls and things. Bob, thanks for the call.
One other real point.
I'm sorry, I'm out of time. We'll be right back. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Did you know that the ancient Roman Republic, which for 480 years was actually a democratic republic before Julius Caesar kind of ended the democracy phase and replaced it with the autocracy phase, that they were brought down by a very small group of very rich people. The richest man in ancient Rome was Marcus Licinius Crassus. He was the richest guy, the billionaire of Rome. And he frankly hated the Roman free bread for all welfare system. It was being paid for with his tax dollars, after all. So him and Pompey the Great and a few other rich guys got together, and they basically crashed Rome. They turned it into an oligarchy and then into into a tyranny. And the parallels to what Trump is doing right now are absolutely shocking. There's an article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled American Caesar, Trump's Path to Power Mirrors Rome's Darkest Days. Check it out.
There's a missile in the sky tonight, but that ain't what scares me most. Not the fire, not the falling steel, not the shadow on the coast. The danger isn't in the warheads or the engines screaming loud. It's the poison in the story whispered slowly to the crowd. The most dangerous weapon ever aimed at America isn't a missile, it's a lie. It tears a nation open from the inside out, while the truth is left to die. They said the votes were stolen, they said the virus fades, they said the facts were treason and the truth was just a fake. They said the press was evil, they said the courts were wrong, they said believe the story even when the proof was strong. The most dangerous weapon ever aimed at America isn't a missile in the sky. It's the lie that keeps on falling like a bomb in every mind, till the truth has nowhere left to hide. You can shoot down rockets, you can build a wall of steel, but what defends a nation when the truth itself can't heal? The most dangerous weapon ever aimed at America isn't a missile that flies. It's the lie we keep believing while democracy bleeds right before our eyes.
And who's funding those lies? Who's building that and buying that media? Right-wing billionaires. This is astonishing. This is over at commondreams.org. Billionaires exerted an unprecedented influence over the 2024 U.S. federal elections, accounting for 1/5 of the nearly $16 billion spent to elect candidates. And this doesn't include the corporations. Just 300 billionaires and their immediate families poured an unprecedented $3 billion into the last election. Those individuals represent 0.008% of the 3.46 million people who donated, and yet with an average donation of $10 million each, equivalent to what 100,000 average donors would give, they amounted to 19% of all spending, $1 in $5. The Times highlighted the extraordinary role that billionaire fundraisers played in pushing Tim Sheeny over John Tester. John Tester was the Democrat who was representing Montana, very popular guy. But Tim Sheehy now, the guy who just broke a veteran's hand, I believe, Sheehy's long shot campaign was given a boost by Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwartz, who put $8 million into his super PAC after previously investing $150 million in Sheehy's business, which helped seed his campaign. And then at least 64 billionaires and 37 of their immediate family members donated directly to his campaign. Now, why are all these billionaires throwing money at Tim Sheehy? Tim Sheehy proposed an end to the estate tax. So the billionaires are like going in on it. Sheehy's campaign also drew support. An analysis shows the billionaires contributed $47 million in the race that Sheehy went on to win over John Tester. His campaign also drew support from Jeff Yaz, who's from Pennsylvania, and a major funder of Trump, the Ulane family out of Illinois, big funders of the Republicans. Ken Griffin, who now lives in Florida, spent $12 million in that state to legalize pot. And this is the bottom line. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of these billionaires to his cabinet. And he put Musk in charge of gutting our government, another billionaire. And another spending blitz is underway right now. The New York Times reported the artificial intelligence industry, crypto industry, pro-Israel lobby, and Trump's super PAC have each amassed tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to go into this election this fall. Silicon Valley billionaires, they write, including PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel and Google co-founder Sergey Brin, have collectively dumped tens of millions into stopping a proposal in California, for a one-time 5% tax on billionaires that would pay for the Medicaid funding that Republicans slashed with their one big beautiful bill. I mean, this is an absolute explosion. Billionaires only spent $16 million back in 2008. Then in 2010, we got Citizens United, and now it's $3 billion, $3,000 million, a 12,000% increase in funding. I mean, we're back to the Gilded Age, where billionaires and giant corporations own the political system and write our laws. It's got to change. Democracy cannot survive this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Meanwhile, Trump had an hour-long conversation with his boss yesterday, Vladimir Putin. I'll tell you about that on the other side of the break, and I'll pick up your calls. Stay with us. Right now, Free Speech TV is, there's no cost of entry here for Free Speech TV. There's no subscription you have to pay for. There's no, box you've got to click, no hoops you have to jump through. They don't sell your information if you sign up with them. It's just you and Free Speech TV, helping build this network, helping create this extraordinary product, this television network that tells the truth, that has a whole bunch of truth tellers on it. So just some great programming and run by some really great people who are doing everything they can to expand the viewership base. That's job number one, not traveling around the country or, making proclamations or coming up with fancy programs, but expand the base. Please help. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no navy, no air force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every dollar billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants. ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back, 34 minutes past the hour. So yesterday, Donald Trump had an hour-long meeting with his boss, Vladimir Putin, before calling a press conference to talk about, well, we're going to dial back the war a little bit, and which raised or lowered the price of oil, raised the stock market a little bit, or at least slowed the hemorrhaging. I haven't looked at the market in the last hour, but it was down quite a bit earlier this morning. But, one of the things I thought was really weird was that, according to Putin's press secretary, now keep in mind that our government, the U.S. federal government, Trump and company, did not tell us that Trump had an hour-long phone conversation with Putin yesterday. They didn't want us to know about that. It was the Russian government that told us that. And the Russian government said that Donald Trump offered his assessment of U.S.-Israeli military operations against Iran. So let me get this straight. Donald Trump has access to the most top secret information in the United States, period. We are at war right now with Iran, which is Russia's ally. Iran supplies weapons to Russia. Russia is right now providing targeting information to Iran and is probably the reason why we have 7 dead Americans and another 15 or 20 hanging on to life in a hospital right now. Because Russia is providing Iran with pinpoint accurate targeting information to take out American soldiers. And they've already done it. So that same Russia is who Donald Trump met with yesterday, Putin, and gave him, quote, his assessment of U.S. military operations in Iran, U.S.-Israeli operations. So Trump is giving top secret info to Putin? I mean, it sure is that. It looks like that's what the Russian government came out and said. This is incredible. This man is not loyal to America, shall we say, at the very least. And you know, we are at war. I think you could arguably call this treason. What say you? Bob in Raisin, Texas. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hello, Tom, and smart listeners out there. Happy Taco Tuesday.
Indeed.
And I hope he's doing taco, you know, by talking Putin down a little bit on the stuff, but I don't know. That's really scary to me. That's Benedict Donald straightforward there in Maine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And we've already got dead
Anyhow.
Americans as a result of Putin helping out the Iranians, in all probability. I can't say that with certainty, but it sure looks that way.
Well,
and what's
not
Trump
the first
doing? Giving him
time.
more information.
Right, and they put bounties out on troops previously. Putin's done that before on the head.
He did that in Afghanistan, and when the news, this was when
Right.
Trump was president, when the news came out that many of our soldiers who were killed in Afghanistan, we lost about 7,000 people in that war in Iraq. When the news came out that many of our soldiers who had been killed because Putin was paying bounties to local Afghan warlords for killing American soldiers, Trump ignored it. He just shrugged his shoulders,
Right.
changed the subject. He doesn't care.
Yep.
You know, soldiers, they're suckers and losers in Trump's world.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could do something about it really more than calling our local representatives here. I mean, it's futile calling Cornyn or our representatives here because they really don't answer the phone. And if they do, they're just paying you lip service, listening to the oligarchs here in Texas.
Well, show up at your local Democratic Party meetings, Bob, and you know, sign up with Indivisible and show up, you know, out in the streets. And you've got, I'm not sure exactly where Raisin, Texas is, but in the city.
Near Victoria, Texas, South Texas, Central, in the middle of nowhere.
Well, a lot of the
middle of the brainworm.
Yeah, a lot.
Infection.
Yeah, no, I get it. A lot of your cities are having regular, at the very least, weekend protests that you could show up for. I mean, you know, and you know, get active on social. There's a lot of things you can do, Bob.
And they've had small Kings meetings, but mostly it's in Corpus and Houston and Dallas where they're really happening.
Sure.
Here's a little update on the local elections, though, as far as Cornyn versus Paxton, you know, the evil guy versus evil behind-the-scenes Trump guy. The Democratic turnout was higher in the primary than the Republican turnout.
Right.
For the first time since 2020, and that's even comparing against the presidential elections. That's good news.
Yeah, it is.
Now, one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to suggest to your listeners out there for a little tip that I saw last year. Essentially, they had these gas pump stickers on the pumps when Biden had the price of, what was it, $3.50 here?
Yeah, I did that.
In the rest of the U.S.
Yeah, we should be doing those with Trump. Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, I did. You can go online and you can get them from Amazon for about $4 for 100. And you can get them on eBay and Etsy if you want different styles. Some of them have this frowning, pointing, I did that. But Trump I did that stickers are $4 for 100, and go and distribute them. They'd be better than the social media is getting the word out. And right now, the prices of oil and gas are causing the gas price to go up. It's currently $2.99 here locally. Don't know what it is elsewhere, but that's a 50% increase since the lows of $2 or right under $2 a gallon.
Yeah. Sean, what are you paying for gasoline now here in Portland? 4.01 last time she bought gas. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's wild. Wow. Bob, that's a great idea. Thanks for calling and suggesting it to people. Hopefully some people will pick up on it. I appreciate that. Dale in Halley, Wisconsin, watching or listening on Civic Media. Hey, Dale, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for taking my call. In reference to the war against Iran, there's a vast difference between notifying some of the Gang of Eight that the administration is going to attack Iran and getting approval via a vote in Congress to allow the administration to attack Iran.
Absolutely.
This whole thing is like notifying a bank that you're going to illegally rob that bank without getting approval from that bank to allow the bank to be robbed.
Right. It's bizarre because they're claiming they're doing this under the War Powers Act of 1973, which was put into place after Nixon, lied to us in '72 about his secret plan to end the Vietnam War. And that War Powers Act says that, number one, the president can authorize hostilities against a foreign nation without the approval of Congress if America has been hit, if the continental United States or Hawaii or Alaska have been actually attacked. We have not been attacked, number one. If we are attacked, then the president can authorize military force for 60 days. And within that 60 days, he has to notify and get the approval of Congress. And lacking that approval, he has to wind it up within 60 days. So this administration is saying, well, we'll do this within 60 days, within 2 months. It's a lie. You're absolutely right, Dale. It's a lie. Dale, thanks a lot for the call.
You.
Yeah, well said. Tom in Walnut Creek, California. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Well, I'm in incredulity about call Trump Putin's puppet when he attacks one of Russia's biggest allies. You double down on that. No one ever talks about the real voter suppression of 2020, which was the intel agency saying that Russia planted the Hunter Biden laptop. Testified in Congress that swayed 12% of the vote. And he also said voter suppression.
I'm not buying that at all.
Oh, you're not buying that? Well, it's fact.
Okay.
It's fact, you idiot.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom. When you resort to name calling, I just, basically hang up on you. See you later. Greg in Bloomington, Indiana. Hey, Greg, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I have a quick story to share.
Sure.
Perhaps it's an anecdote. I accompanied a friend of mine to the VA hospital yesterday, massive hospital, and was there for several hours as he had this outpatient procedure. All of the TVs in the hospital were tuned to MS Now.
Oh, really?
When they would normally be tuned to
Fox.
You know what?
Yeah. That's interesting.
61% of retired military nationally voted for Trump. I'm going to say it was closer to 80% in Indiana. So I just thought that this could be a sign that maybe we aren't toast. Yeah. Maybe we can get out of this thing.
Well, I keep telling people, Greg, and I'll say it again. I'm actually optimistic. I think that we are on the verge of a major shift in American domestic policy, in the way that we govern. And I realize that, Trump and the billionaires behind him, and they threw, $16 billion in the last election. There's more coming for this election because the stakes are so high. I realize that they think that they can flip America into a neo-fascist state, turn us into something like Germany in the 30s. I don't think so. I think that Americans are fighting back.
I don't think they can.
Yeah.
I will also just plug the VA hospital's treatment of my friend. I thought it was exemplary. I thought they did a wonderful job. I've never seen so many practitioners attending to someone.
And that's socialist medicine, by the way. It's the
whole thing was socialist.
Yeah, it's a medical system that is owned and run and paid for by the government. You're absolutely right, Greg. Thank you. It's spot on. Great to hear from you. 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, the Supreme Court got that one wrong, too. We'll be right back. And welcome back, Paul in Portland. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, great show. I would like to plug an author, Athena Actipus, who's written right before the election, 6 months before the presidential election, A Field Guide to the Apocalypse.
Oh, what a title.
Yeah, what a title. But it's about thriving in the midst of chaos and apocalyptic times, which she injects humor in there. She not only looks at methods to do that, but also ways to fail, and she includes in the individual strategy ways to fail: get an obscenely big house and lots of highly impractical cars, or pile your stuff up in a big pile and sit on top of it with a gun. Or the collective ways to fail, there are: get an authoritarian leader to solve all your problems, or ignore the problems, start a war, blame others for the problems, or blame others and start a war.
Sounds like the Trump's playbook here.
Exactly. So she was poking fun before the election. She was poking fun at those folks who are now building bunkers in Trump's cabinet. And the last collective fail is go to space. But I think we should make an exception to that. We should deport Elon.
Yeah, to Mars.
To space.
To Mars. Yeah, at the very least, he should go back to South Africa where he came from. But yeah, I get it. Paul, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That was a good one. Michelle in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Michelle, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I have an app on my phone that is the Substack app. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody posted on there that the Parliament of Greenland just introduced legislation that bans Donald Trump and all his descendants for 100 generations.
I love it. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. That's great. Yeah, well, Substack, I mean, anybody can write for Substack. But generally speaking, even though there's no, editorial overview, I have 5 Substack newsletters. We just started a new one called CommonwealthReport.news, and we're doing a daily newscast over there. And, Substack's pretty good. There's some good stuff there.
Oh, yeah. Well, if this is true, it's very uplifting.
Yeah. Remarkable. Yeah, check out Commonwealth.news. I think you may find it interesting. Who was writing that, Michelle? Where did that come from?
Somebody that posts themselves as disgusted.
So this was one of the notes, commentaries, or this was a full-on Substack newsletter article? I'd like to track it down.
Not a full-on article. It's just on the app, just as you're scrolling through it.
Yeah, when you open the Substack app, the first thing you see is what's called Notes, which is their equivalent of Twitter, basically.
Okay, and, well, that's what this is in then.
Social media. So yeah, it could be, or it could be ironic, or it could be funny, but that's fascinating. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. Although, the Greenland Parliament, to the extent that it's not autonomous, they are still a territory of Denmark. So fascinating. Michelle, thank you. Thanks for calling and sharing that. I appreciate it. 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just 1 minute. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. America is suffering from an epidemic of bullying. And one of the things we know is that culture, including bullying, flows from the top down. We've seen studies where when issues of, for example, being gay or transgender are being debated in the public, gay and transgender kids in school are more likely to be bullied. When racial issues are being discussed, people of minority races are more likely to be bullied. Well, now we've got a man who has literally built his career on being a bully, Donald Trump. as president, or was president, as candidate. And he is driving this insane bullying campaign and using it as a political weapon across the United States. And it's contagious. It's dangerous. There's an entire article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled America's New Epidemic, a Nation Overrun by Bullies. Check it out. Welcome back, 9 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Vic in Manhattan, Illinois. Hey, Vic, what's up?
Hey, I've been a listener for, quite a while. I am frustrated because I hear everything wrong that Trump has done, everything wrong that MAGA has done, everything wrong that the oligarchs have done, but I don't hear a plan on how to address it. I've been pretty active in the Democratic Party. I get requests for money. I get requests to go out and make sure all the Democrats vote, and that's about it. I don't think that's enough. I think we need to have a strong, focused, charismatic leadership. One or more people. Doesn't have to be the next candidate, but just somebody that's going to bring us together, the Democrats together, and then have a plan. We don't have a plan. The Republicans have that, or I don't even call them Republicans anymore. It's MAGA. They have their Project 2025 that goes into excruciating detail on all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I think we need something like that.
I agree.
The Democrats need the equivalent of Republicans have 2 or 3 think tanks where they get some heavy hitters in there. I don't feel like we've got anything. I've never seen any results from that.
Yeah, Billionaire.
I'd like to see.
Go ahead.
Pardon?
No, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
What we need is a better way to communicate with all of these people that if they were in their right mind would not be voting. You got all these poor folks in the southeast U.S. that are, strongly MAGA. If we had a way to communicate with them, part of this think tank should be, some psychologists, some salespeople on how to try to get the message across. Some strong religious folks, real religion, real Christians like Tellerico, to counter the
I think that's happening, Vic. I get it. You're starting to repeat yourself. I think that is actually happening right now within the Democratic Party. As we get closer to, which this will take another year or two, but as we get closer to the next presidential election, you're going to start seeing national leadership emerge. And I think most of us have our favorites right now. Mine is J.B. Pritzker. A lot of people are big fans of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Other people are, Josh Shapiro is their guy, or the Kentucky guy.
For getting the plan together, get all those strong guys together, and then you need a charismatic, bright leader to sell it all.
I think that will emerge. I really do. The time.
I hope so.
The time is here, and it's starting to emerge at local levels, and that's appropriate. And in a way, like the Republicans would always try to impose this from the top down. In the Democratic Party, it comes from the bottom up. It's coming from the grassroots up.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing. It may take a little more time, but the people themselves are energized. The people are waking up. People are showing up at Democratic Party meetings in numbers that nobody's ever seen before. I mean, they're just huge. And we had more Democratic voters in the primaries in Texas last week than any time for quite some time. I mean, it's just I see all the trends are moving in our direction, except since 5 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court legalized bribery, except for big money, dark money. And the billionaire money is going 5-1 to Republicans instead of Democrats. And they succeeded in buying the last election, in the 2024 election. It was billionaire money, for example, that knocked out John Tester and put in Tim Sheehy so that, he could break a veteran's hand. Go ahead.
Some stuff that they could do even before the midterms. I've got family and friends that are strong MAGA that you can't even talk to them. Yeah. If they would come up with some kind of a way to to talk to people. You know, that's why I'm pitching psychologists and salespeople.
Yeah.
If I could get, 10% of them to shift, and we could get people talking to people in the Southeast and to other people that if they were in their right mind wouldn't be voting.
I think your strong maggots by and large are the people who are basically racist to the core or homophobic or hate women. I mean, that is a large chunk of the MAGA sphere.
I think that's an oversimplification, and
Certainly
I think
it is.
I know the ones that are in my family are not. They're used to being Republicans.
Yeah.
Not openly, right?
Yeah.
And the people in the South, if they really understood the impact to health, the impact of
look at how they're getting screwed by Republicans across the South. I mean, you've got the poorest states in the country. They've got the lowest minimum wage. They've got basically no health care. You've got levels of infant and maternal mortality that rival the third world in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi.
If we had some focused way to communicate with them.
Right. Well, one of the problems is they've got 1,500 radio stations and we've got maybe 200. They've got 3 television networks. We've got maybe 1 and 1 nonprofit. I mean, it's an asymmetric warfare. But I get what you're saying, Vic, and I completely agree. Thank you for the call, and thanks for listening to WCPT.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
So between his tax cuts and crashing the debt ceiling and shifting billions of Treasury dollars into crypto and tariffs and all this other stuff, Trump is threatening to crash our economy. And he doesn't seem to be particularly worried about that. Why would that be? Well, first off, economic disasters are great excuses to cut taxes. Both Reagan and George W. Bush used recessions as their excuse to stimulate the economy by cutting trillions from the taxes of billionaires. Secondly, economic crises increase the tolerance for strongman governments. Hitler rode to power in Europe based on the Great Depression. And third, billionaires make a fortune when there's a market crash because they can buy all the stock that average people are trying to unload from their 401ks to pay the damn rent. There's a whole article about this that lays the whole thing out over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled Crashing the Economy, Trump's Blueprint for Power and Profit. Check it out. Free Speech TV genuinely needs your help. We've had a real struggle hitting our fundraising goals for a couple of cycles now. We're trying to expand the viewership base, right? Doing some public relations stuff, maybe a little advertising. It's a high priority, at least I understand so from the people running Free Speech TV. But and you can help with that by telling people about it. And pointing out to them that no subscription required. You don't have to sign up for anything. Although we are asking today for you to sign up to support Free Speech TV. And, with a regular monthly contribution, the very best way to support Free Speech TV. But there's also one-off contributions where you can get all kinds of good stuff like, an autographed copy of one of my books, only available here on Free Speech TV. So please call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution now. Thank you so much. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no Navy, no Air Force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every dollar billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants. ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the second hour of our program. On the line with us is our buddy Lev Parnas, the author of Shadow Diplomacy, a public speaker, political activist, truth teller, subject of the Emmy-nominated Rachel Maddow documentary From Russia with Lev. He's an award-winning whistleblower, received the Distinguished Pillar Award for whistleblowing in 2025. And he has an extraordinary website, levremembers.substack.com, L-E-V, Lev Remembers. He also has a GoFundMe at Lev Parnas, help Lev Parnas save our democracy. He's running for Congress. Lev, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for having me back. Absolutely.
So tell me what this means. Yesterday, we learned from Russian media, not from American media, but from Russian media, that Donald Trump had an hour-long phone conversation with Vladimir Putin in which they discussed the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran. Now, it seems to me that Russia is, it's been reported Russia is actually helping Iran target American soldiers. They've so far killed 7 of them, and apparently together. And yet Trump has access to all of the top secret information on the inside here in America. And Trump is spending an hour on the phone with Putin, talking to him about Iran. What the hell is going on here, Lev?
I'm glad you're talking about it, Tom, because most of the media don't even blink, they just exactly like he's been on the phone with him for an hour. What are they possibly talking about? Well, I'll tell you some of the reporting that I've done from some of my sources basically is that Putin put Trump into this position. He's dragged him all along from setting him up with what happened in Venezuela with Maduro by giving him Maduro that shiny object that he wanted, thinking that that's the win, but leaving Delcy Rodriguez, his real, the person that he's aligned with in office, continuously running that. Same thing here in Iran. Putin basically needed his army, his economy was going to nothing. Donald Trump was not being able to allow Putin, their economy, to, even by lifting certain sanctions and by not helping Ukraine with the war, it still was not helping with the Russian economy. The Russian economy, just like McCain said, if you remember, it's like a gas station. They're built off of oil and gas. And so what they needed was prices to go up and prices to go dramatically, because they were I think prices were below like around $60, 60 something dollars a barrel. And they basically brought Donald Trump to this point where they gave him certain coordinates. Basically, you also have to remember the 2 people that were talking about, the special envoys to the situation are the same 2 people, Kushner and Witkoff, that were dealing with the Iranians and the Russians at the same exact time, the same exact conversations. The other thing you got to take a look at, which is Iran is such a close friend to Russia. They give him all that support for the war, and Russia is not, there's no outrage by Russia or China. Right. This is all theatrics. This was all put together because Russia needs this war, because like I wrote in my Substack, Trump basically knocked over the hornet's nest. He started something that he cannot stop, and something that benefits Russia, because while America right now and Israel is in a war, basically of choice, as most people would say, Russia right now is rebuilding its economy, because as oil prices go up, as oil prices get higher, Russia's economy is going to get much stronger, and it's made right now into a war machine. Right. And what that responds to is basically Eastern Europe is in trouble. The other thing they were talking about, what nobody's talking about, Tom, is I'll tell you some also info, is about Nord Stream 2. A lot of people are not talking about Nord Stream 2, but I've been mentioning it for a while. It's the pipeline that goes from Russia into Germany. And now with prices of oil and gas skyrocketing because of the war, Russia is giving Trump, alternatives now by, getting Nord Stream 2 and Nord Stream 1 back up. They could start selling and delivering Russian oil and gas to Eastern Europe, which because of this war that's not going to end that quickly, it's only going to get worse as a solution to the problem. And so this is the type of stuff that they've been talking about, but none of it had to do with actually helping people, stopping the war in any part of Eastern Europe or the Middle East.
Right, and when you talk about Eastern Europe, I assume you're talking about Russia's often repeated desire to take all, or at least the eastern parts of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. The Baltics,
So
100%, Tom.
yeah, so it sounds to me like what you're saying. I mean, the conventional wisdom among people who are not, living in the MAGA bubble in America is that basically Netanyahu and Kushner, who was a childhood friend of Netanyahu used to sleep in Kushner's bedroom back in the 80s when he would visit the United States, that Netanyahu and Kushner basically put a ring in Trump's nose and brought him along to attack Iran because Netanyahu has been trying to get American presidents to attack Iran for decades, and no previous American president was stupid enough to do it. But it sounds like what you're suggesting is that maybe when Kushner and Netanyahu suggested this to Trump, he called up Putin and said, what do you think about this? And Putin said, well, it might be a good idea.
No, I think it's even more deeper, because what people don't understand is the relationship Netanyahu has with Putin. It's also very close. Going back to 2018, when Netanyahu went back into won the prime ministership, I was sent to Israel to help with that elections back then by Trump and Giuliani, because to get him the Russian vote, because back then it was a very close election.
Most Americans probably don't realize there's a lot of Russian Jewish expats living in Israel. There's a huge Russian diaspora there. Huge, and huge money. Huge money and a huge connection. So that's why, a lot of what I say when it comes to Donald Trump and Netanyahu and Putin, you're seeing theatrics play out. What I always say is, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do, and watch what's really happening behind the scenes. And you're 100% right. Netanyahu wants the land. And him and Putin basically got a win because they got Donald Trump, somebody that they were able to, dangle the carrot that he's going to stop these wars, peace in the Middle East, and all of a sudden the Riviera on the Gaza Strip, and all this oil and mineral he's going to get from Ukraine. And once the Russians topple that, just think about for the past year of all of these different projects, promises. Meanwhile, the Trump family is making all of these billions of dollars and all of this carrots by, it's either three people that are constantly in the news when it comes to Trump and that are in his ear that are making this thing happen. And the three of them wanted this war more than anybody. And that is Russia, that is Bibi Netanyahu, and that is MBS from Saudi Arabia. And this goes back even farther. Who gave Jared Kushner $2 billion.
Exactly, and who introduced Kushner to Kirill Dmitriev and Witkoff back in 2017 at the Sovereign Wealth Fund event in Saudi Arabia, and made the actual connection between Russia and Trump's administration back then. That has been growing and flourishing.
Wow. So, I mean, you were inside the Trump administration. You know the insiders there. You've been part of it. You worked for Trump for a while. To what extent is he running the show versus he being run? And if he's being run, by whom?
It's a combination. In his mind, he's running the show, and that's how you have to deal with Trump, and that's why people around him, the show here, the policy is being run by people like Russell Vought, Stephen Miller, people of Project 2025 that are trying to instill certain policies here in the United States and abroad. He himself is running a lot of it. They just maneuver him because he goes off emotions. He's not looking at long-term plans. He's living right now like a bucket list. I don't know if that makes sense, Tom, where he's like trying to, as you can see, he wants to be at the football matches. He wants the Olympics here. He's concentrating on, things while the world is blowing up. Like, just a week ago. Yeah. Exactly. He wants his ballroom. Just think about it. A week ago, literally a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, he was talking about how gas is under $2 in some places. And now we have gas at almost $4 at some places. I mean, it's just, and, he ran his whole campaign. Remember, drill, baby, drill. He just, even a couple of days ago, he said the oil in Venezuela is flowing. The question is, where's the money? Where's all of this money? Where's the money flowing? Yeah. I know the Venezuelan money is flowing to Qatar. I know the Russian money is now all flowing to there. So what does America get? What America gets, Tom, unfortunately, is 8 dead soldiers, that have to come back here to their families, that put their lives for no reason whatsoever. And that's what we know about, because what the reporting is all over the world, that there's more casualties, there are more deaths.
Right.
What else does America get? Threats. Just think about it. We can't live normally. Travel is not the way you see it, because there every day that this is going on, even if Trump were to come and say the war ends today, he has opened up a hornet's nest. There are cells. These are groups of people. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm jumping in because I see that I only have about a minute and a half here before we're going to hit a hard break.
I'm sorry.
Tim Snyder, the fascism expert, suggests that the main reason Trump invaded Iran is because he's hoping that Iran will attack America in a spectacular 9/11 style fashion so that Trump can have his own Reichstag fire, his own 9/11, the thing that will catapult him to popularity the way it did George W. Bush. What are your thoughts on that, Lev Parnas?
I'd have to disagree with him. A lot of people say that, but knowing the people on the inside and knowing actually what's going on and not theorizing, but dealing with facts. Donald Trump thought he was going to get a huge win. He thought this was going to be in Venezuela Part 2. He thought that he was going to wipe out Ayatollah, all these people, and all the hierarchy, and he was going to basically then have the guards lay down the weapons and have the people in the.
You think he was that naive?
Oh, I know for a fact that's what was sold to him by the Russians. That's why, Tom, just take a look at one simple fact. I always say, look what happens. Think about it. The President of the United States was basically told that Russia, intelligence is saying that Russia's giving information, targeting our military bases where our soldiers are dying. And he's basically said, I don't think so, on the plane. And even if Putin was doing it, he's not doing a good job of it. Just the reaction, what I'm saying to you, the cover-up is always worse than the actual crime. Donald Trump did not want that. Donald Trump wants to stay in power. Donald Trump is doing this for two different reasons. And he thought, because he thought he was going to come in, quickly take Iran, and next was going to be Cuba, and then bring it all here, try to tie this all together. But that was all set up by Bibi Netanyahu and Putin.
He wants a historic presidency, apparently. The great Lev Parnas, check out his website, Lev Remembers, Lev Remembers.
Well, actually, Tom,
go ahead.
Tom, can I just say something? Because I'm running for Congress. If you could just, levparnas.org is where everybody, because I've decided to run for Congress, and I'm making.
You've got
it. Sorry.
Lev, that's quite all right. Lev Parnas, PARNAS.org. Lev, thanks a lot.
Well,
and good luck.
Thank you, Tom.
Good
I
talking
appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care, Tom.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
18 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. And Sheila in Bainbridge Island, Washington. Hey, Sheila, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I received a letter from the Department of Human Services. Now, I know this is not anything goes, but I think it might be something that you and I and the whole world is interesting. It says Medicare is moving you to a new Part D plan for 2025, although we're in 26. Unless you've already joined the plan on your own, you'll be in WellCare classes starting January 7th. Are all your drugs on your plans drugs, et cetera, et cetera? What do you think about this? You think it's a scam?
I don't know. What was the return address on the envelope?
The Department of Human Resources.
For the United States government or for the state of Washington?
No, the United States government.
I just don't know, Sheila. I know that there have been some changes in the Part D plans, and that some of them are free, some of them you pay for. I think almost all of them are scams, frankly. But the whole drug thing is a scam, in my opinion. But I just don't know. I can't advise you on that, Sheila. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm sitting outside and I'm waiting for it to rain. Us Pacific Northwesterners, and it's sun. I don't like it. How about you?
I like the sun, but the rain has its own charm. Sheila, thank you for the call. It's nice to hear from you. April in Santa Monica, California. Hey, April, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I was just calling because I was it was a few shows back, but I remember, because you're such a kind man, you did not want to refer to Donald Trump and or his cabinet as evil people. And I just wanted to direct you to Dr. M. Scott Peck. And I think you've talked about his book.
People of the Lie. Yeah, his
People
book.
of the Lie. Yeah.
I wrote an op-ed about that, yeah.
And it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
He has 10 characteristics of evil according to M. Scott Peck.
Right.
And it's based completely on, behavioral things. And there are 10 of them, and Donald Trump ticks every single one of them.
Yeah.
Consistently self-deceiving, malignant narcissism, projection and scapegoating, intolerance of criticism, abuse of power, persistent destructiveness, pretending to love, lying incessantly, refusal of responsibility, and hatred of the light. And, he goes into detail with each one of those things. But every single one of them. So I just wanted to call and say, you do not have to worry about referring to him as evil, because he really, literally is.
I agree. And I've changed my opinion on that. In fact, on yesterday, I wrote a piece basically calling him evil. I mean, it's psychopathy. I mean, you can argue that he was wounded as a child. He was, unloved. I mean, you can come up with all the excuses, and, they may well be true. But the simple reality is that he's doing extraordinary damage to our country, to our world. He's responsible for lots and lots of deaths, and there will be more. And
he is just the tip of the iceberg, because he's got a lot of... Stephen Miller is the most abhorrent human being.
Yeah, Nosferatu, yeah.
If we started calling Stephen Miller the president and referring to him as the commander-in-chief... Yeah, if we started saying President Miller,
that's a great idea, April, because it'll make Donald crazy. April, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew both took cash bribes while they were in the White House. Since then, the Supreme Court, or at least 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court, made it a lot easier for politicians to take bribes with their Citizens United decision, which basically legalized political bribery as long as it's done through campaigns or PACs or super PACs. But for some people, there's just never enough money, right? Donald Trump has been running small-time hustles to make money for decades, selling sneakers, Bibles, steaks, vodka, water. But now he's hit the big time. He's got these fungible tokens, right? These fungible crypto assets, which are basically just digital pictures of Donald Trump that say fight, fight, fight. And he has turned them into an $8 billion machine. His wife is in on this too, with his Trump coin. It's a new way that foreign powers and billionaires in the United States can just shovel money into Donald Trump's pocket. There's a whole article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled Presidential Payola, the Evolution of Political Bribery. Check it out. Welcome back. 24 minutes past the hour. So Bob Kennedy has hired another crackpot, Retsef Levy, an operations management professor. No, he has no medical training. He's not a physician. He's not a scientist who studies medicine. He teaches operations management at MIT. And he is now a member of the U.S. Department of Health's Vaccine Advisory Committee, the ACIP, and they're looking at the COVID-19 vaccines. Now, this guy, Levy, is a guy who is both Israeli and American citizen, has claimed that COVID vaccines are, quote, the most failing medical product in the history of medical products, challenges whether they're safe and effective, even though, Lancet published a study finding that COVID-19 vaccines saved at least 20 million lives the first year that they were out. Kennedy fired all 17 members of this Vaccine Overview Committee, ACIP, and has now put Levy on there along with a bunch of other crackpots. A Guardian review, this is from Stephanie Kirschengasser in The Guardian. A Guardian review of Levy's record found that more than a dozen experts have criticized research papers he has authored on the topic for being misleading. He is not a physician. He is not a vaccine expert. But he's going to be deciding whether or not you can get your vaccine, your COVID-19 vaccine, paid for by your insurance. Let that one sink in, right? In 2023, he tweeted that there is, quote, mounting and indisputable evidence that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death. Right. At least one other peer-reviewed paper that Levy published about COVID-19 found that recipients of the Pfizer vaccine had a 40% higher all-cause mortality than Moderna's. It was heavily criticized by public health experts. The paper was co-authored by Joseph Ladapo, the Surgeon General of Florida, the crazy guy who has been who trash talks vaccines and did away with mandatory vaccination for kids in Florida, and so now they're having measles epidemics. In fact, Ladapo once compared vaccine mandates to slavery. He's African American. The agenda for the meeting that this group is having on 18th and 19th of March, in a week and a half, 2 weeks, is to focus on COVID-19 vaccine injuries and potential changes to vaccine recommendation methodologies. Get ready. Pretty soon, if you're on any kind of health insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, you may have to pay a couple $100 if you want to get a vaccine, a COVID vaccine, which is just obscene. This stuff saves lives. Meanwhile, Dr. Oz says there's too many people on the Affordable Care Act. He wants to kick some off. I'll tell you about that, and I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Occupying the media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'll be right back with you. Imagine a world with no free speech TV, where there isn't a good, solid alternative source of information, where you have to go digging through social media and YouTube videos and there's no way you're going to get this kind of good, solid, truthful information from CBS now. Soon it's going to be CNN as well. The Washington Post is gone. The LA Times is gone. I mean, the billionaire takeover of our media is absolutely obscene and is destroying this shared concept of truth that I was ranting about in my first hour here. It lives, however, the shared concept of truth lives here on Free Speech TV. And that's why it's so worthy of your support. And it's so important right now that you support Free Speech TV. This is a desperate time for America and a difficult time for Free Speech TV. So please contribute now. Thank you. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no navy, no air force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every $1 billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on Earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, "The fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants." ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. Between 1920 and 1980, America went from the middle class being about 10 or 12% of us up to being over 60% of us. What drove that was high taxation. High tax rates. Woodrow Wilson had 91% income tax rate. Franklin Roosevelt, 90% top income tax rate. Lyndon Johnson dropped it down to 74%. But from that, throughout that entire period of time, with the exception of the Roaring 20s, this is a brief little 10-year period, 12-year period, the top income tax rate was in the neighborhood of 74 to 90%. And what that did was it caused really rich people to leave their money in their businesses and pay their workers well, and that produced the middle class. Reagan came along and dropped that top tax rate down to 25% and then 27%, and it's now in the 30s, and that's what killed the middle class. We need to bring back these high taxes. There's a whole article about it at HartmannReport.com. Will the morbidly rich ever go back to being good citizens? Check it out. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. Mehmet Oz, the guy who's in charge of Obamacare and Medicare and Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. He says there's too many people on the Affordable Care Act. Now, there's only 23 million Americans who are on the Affordable Care Act right now, which is just a tiny number, frankly. And It's mostly people who are like gig workers or who are running their own companies or work part-time and don't have health insurance from their employer. And by the way, that 23 million that are on ACA right now, on Obamacare right now, is about 1.5 million fewer than last year because Republicans killed the enhanced ACA subsidies. So the premiums doubled or tripled even for some people. And so as a result, a lot of people didn't sign up, or they signed up for lower grade plans. They went from, gold to silver, silver to bronze, whatever. But in this phone interview that NBC News writes about, Berkeley Lovelace Jr. writing, Oz said, in fact, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants in the ACA. It's too high of a number. He's convinced that there must be some fraud in the system, and no doubt there is, but, millions of people. So what's he going to do about it? Well, we don't know quite yet, but what they're talking about doing, Oz and his buddies in the insurance industry who are big donors to the Trump campaign and the Republican Party, what they're talking about doing is rolling out what they call catastrophic coverage. Right now, these plans are only good for 30 days. But they, for like if you lose your job and you just want to have catastrophic, in case you get in a car accident or something. But they want to make them like long-term. These are plans that have $31,000 deductibles for a family, $10,600 for an individual. That was the average annual deductible for catastrophic plans last year, according to KFF, the old Kaiser Family Foundation. We desperately need a national health care system. I'm telling you, if the Democrats want to start winning elections, start campaigning on Medicare for all. I realize the billionaires and the big money will come out of the woodwork, but I think Americans are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're sick and tired of being lied to by Republican politicians, and a handful of Democrats, too. I mean, Joe Lieberman was the guy who sabotaged Obamacare, took out the public option. But, it's time to go back to this foundational democratic idea about the United States, going back to FDR, arguably going back to Grover Cleveland, and saying that the government is here to support all of us, we the people, not just the billionaires. So what say you? Chris in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Hey, Chris, what's up?
Hello, hola, from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Hola.
Listening down here, and I just had a comment listening to some right-wing bull, whatever, BS, regarding real ID and the voting issue and how they're going to try to suppress a lot of people from voting, obviously. And as you know, I'm sure, and everybody knows this could tip the election. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I'm hoping the numbers will be great enough that won't even matter. However, my feeling is on this real ID battle, as long as they're getting everybody to try to get it, et cetera, maybe the left can come up with some assistance for people to get real ID, which fulfills the qualifications so these people can vote. Because I think there's a lot of people, lower income, older folks, disabled folks, folks of color, new citizens, et cetera, that aren't going to be included in the vote because
if they pass the SAVE Act, the real ID is not going to be enough, Chris. You still have to bring your birth certificate and your passport.
I thought that, well, in my opinion, that might be true, and I might be mistaken on that. But I think it could be within that bill, you could convince them that if you have the real ID, you can vote. Because I don't see how they can win with that. In other words, if somebody has to go through all this trouble to get a real ID with their I think it has to show their address, so that crosses off that problem. And I think it has to show that you're a bona fide citizen, doesn't it? To get the real ID?
You're right on all of that stuff. When I got my real ID here in Oregon last year, I had to bring a passport and I had to bring 2 utility bills, basically, to prove that I live where I live, and a tax bill. I get all that, but the SAVE Act says that that's not enough. And they want to make sure that the name on your birth certificate is the same as the name on your driver's license.
So to get folks that, they would have to have a passport, or could they get by with a birth certificate?
They could get by with a birth certificate and proof of, which is considered proof of birth here in the United States. But not just any old birth certificate. Not, you know, a lot of people have birth certificates that are like the, you know, the frameable souvenir birth certificates. You've got to get the one with the raised stamp from the state, you know, which it costs some money. And, you know, this.
Well, wherever we end up on, you know, whatever happens, I don't know when the SAVE thing is going to be voted on. Is that in the Senate or what?
Yeah, it's in the Senate. John Thune is holding it up right now because he doesn't want to. He's not willing to break the filibuster over it, and Trump is demanding that he does break a filibuster.
That he breaks it. Yeah, I mean, I just think if that's going to be a huge if that happens. That could tip the election. Of course, that's what they want, and that's what Trump thinks. And
between that and gerrymandering, they think they've got and just good old-fashioned voter suppression. I mean, you've got the Supreme Court having authorized caging, so you've got in all the red states that have blue cities, you know, like Ohio or Indiana or Georgia, you've got the state government sending out postcards to black people mostly in cities. Saying if you don't send this back within 30 days, we're going to take you off the voting rolls, and people think it's just junk mail and throw it away. That's how Ohio has purged millions of people from their voting rolls, mostly in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus.
My thing is, I guess that if we not overthink it, but if whatever happens with it, whatever it ends up in that bill, maybe people could volunteer groups to get people signed up to get whatever's going to work in the final bill to make people be able to vote, volunteer to help them get their
IDs. I get your argument, Chris, and that kind of gets around the whole it's a poll tax argument. I get it. Chris, thank you. Tom in Celebration, Florida. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how you doing this afternoon?
Fine, but you need to get a little closer to your microphone. It sounds like you're talking to me from the loo. Oh, you are talking to me from the loo. So what's up, Tom? Tom, I'm going to put you on hold and let you and Mateo navigate this. Becky in Hamilton, Montana. Hey, Becky, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I just want to say that for those people who want to be led, don't wait. You lead instead. Years ago, during Trump's first regime, my husband and I got on the highway corner in Main Street in our town, and we held signs, and we were the only ones. Then we'd get more fingers, sent to us and honks. Now, and we'd also get coal rolled, rolling coal. And then a friend would join us 2 weeks later, and then another friend. And then last March, we took the Indivisible training and started marches and rallies here. And then now we have a Indivisible board in our area.
Wow.
And they organized, and one march we got 750 people, and another march we got 600.
That's great.
So don't wait for a party to tell you, what to do or where to go or to lead you. In fact, we had some people from the Democratic Party tell us, like 8 years ago or whatever it was, that we were instigators and we were, radicals. That was from our own party telling us to stop standing out there with the signs, and we still stood out there with the signs. Yeah. So I believe in Margaret Mead's quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has."
Amen. Well said, Becky, and good on you for your activism. Thank you so much for being an inspiration to all of us. Appreciate the call. It's just about 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us. And welcome back. Joe in Van Nuys, California. Hey, Joe, what's up?
All right, just going to take you up over here. All right, the beginning of your show, you were talking about how the Republicans can flip the truth upside down or on its ear. Do you remember back in the 80s, the thing that they used to do? They would demonize the other party, making them sound like the bad guy. Do you ever remember the terminology of demonization of the other guy?
Yeah, it's nothing new, and it's not, and it hasn't gone away.
Oh, yes. That's the terminology that we were talking about. I just didn't hear you say the word demonization because, since the 80s, I talked to these young Republicans, or, between 30s and 20s, and they'd be going, Democrats, aren't they all going to hell? They kill babies.
Yeah.
And, they use the abortion thing and all that other jargon stuff, when they're the ones doing that. Remember, it's the demon saying it's the other people these people are like demons, what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And they're showing their cards.
Yeah.
I don't. I have
disagree. Go ahead.
What? Oh, one of my signs. I went out this last weekend. I didn't realize that it wasn't really being organized, but I went out anyway to one of my normal spots, and it says, "God help us." The pedophiles are now in charge, making our laws, writing our taxes, enforcing our taxes, and doing our Medicare, and without any regard, sending our young off to war. I hadn't really hadn't heard that the war had begun. But I'm out there yelling, pedophiles. Do you want pedophiles in charge being king? That kind of thing. Pedophile protectors, yelling it out there. It's a good relief, Leaves you a little hoarse afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time you hear a story about some crap that they're throwing like monkeys at the press or whatever, just tag March 28th. Tag March 28th, and we'll have as many people out there as we did a few months ago.
There you go. I'm with you. Joe, thank you. Mariano in Boulder, Colorado. Hey, Mariano, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I'm going to keep it quick. Always a pleasure to listen to your show and to listen to your, callers. Fantastic comments.
Thank you.
Mine is real quick. I had the pleasure of working in Washington, D.C., hanging art as an art handler, and I've had the pleasure of being at the Kennedy Center and at the Watergate Hotel and spending some time there. And I must tell you, those two properties are beautiful. Gorgeous. The Kennedy Center is amazing. And my prediction right here on your show is that Trump is going to try to steal that property somehow.
Trump is going to what? Steal those properties?
Steal the Kennedy Center. Absolutely, because now they're doing a renovation, right? You heard about this?
Yeah.
They closed it down for renovation.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
That's just setting it up.
He was sick and tired of artists saying, no, we're not going to perform in the Trump Kennedy Center since you've illegally appropriated you've slapped your name on it.
Absolutely. And I just see this is just like everything else. They're just setting the table for the big, grand grift.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you that, Trump is a grifter par excellence. And it wouldn't surprise me if he tries to have his family end up with either of those properties, although the Kennedy Center was created by an act of Congress, so that's going to be a little more difficult. But, Mariano, thank you. Well said. It is 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 1 minute. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. When Ronald Reagan took over America in 1981, we handed him a brand gleaming new country. Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, Jack Kennedy, they had built America. We had brand new schools, brand new hospitals, brand new interstate highway systems, brand new airports, infrastructure. We were the envy of the world. And then Republicans came along and they said, well, you just cut the top tax rate from 74% down to 27% and everything will trickle down. Instead, what do we get? Billionaires and poverty. They said, hey, just deregulate guns. And an armed society is a polite society. Instead, we've got more school shootings than anywhere in the world. They said, just kill off civics and history classes in our schools and liberate our young people to focus on science and math. Now we've got people who don't know how our government works. I mean, it just goes on from there. There's a whole rant about it over at HartmannReport.com titled "FDR Saved America, Then the GOP Ripped Us Apart." Check it out. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Donna in Estes Park, Colorado. Hey, Donna. Thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I've been listening to you since Air America, but this is my second time calling. It's Estes, by the way.
Oh, Estes. Okay. Yeah.
So I haven't heard or read anybody bring a comparison that I've been seeing between how the Nazi Party was finally establish itself and how the orange guy is trying to establish it here. And after, Treaty of Versailles and then the market crash, obviously half of Germans lost their jobs. Unemployment was like at 11 million or something, and it was insane. And I've been wondering, because everyone says, why is Trump doing this to America? Why is he doing this? This, I think, is why. Because those people were so desperate. It was much easier to say, it's that guy over there that's doing this.
Well, and Hitler's whole shtick was basically make Germany great again.
It's the same thing I'm saying. But the economy part is the part I'm not hearing people say, that he's purposely making us poor and sick and stupid. Because that's the comparison I see.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Nazi Germany, and then Hitler could just walk right in.
Yeah.
So I think this is on purpose.
I agree. I don't think that. Well, yeah, no. Let me qualify that. I think that number one, what we're looking at is a 50-year campaign that has transferred at least $38 trillion out of the pockets of average people like you and me into the pockets of the top 1% or top 0.00001%.
Thank you, Reagan.
Yeah, exactly. And the real number is probably closer to 70 or 80 trillion, but 38 trillion of that shows up as our national debt. And it takes two salaries now to have the same middle class lifestyle that one salary could have had in 1980. And wages have still been frozen. I mean, there's all these economic indicators that the morbidly rich, the Zuckerbergs and Musks of the world have just ripped us all off just insanely. And yeah, I think that makes people more willing to accept fascism, because, fascism basically says, a strong leader will solve all your problems. Just turn it over to
Which is what they said about Hitler, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We need a fascist to fix our economy. So I think they're doing this on purpose to make people so desperate they don't care.
Right, and the bonus is that they get a lot richer. Yeah. Donna, I have to move along, but you said it very well. Thank you so much. Tom in Celebration, Florida. You want to try it again, Tom?
Yeah, you got me in a bad position there, Tom. It's hard to really stay on topic with everything that goes on, but I'm going to try. I might bounce around a little, but everything is all connected. We were born under the rule of the Old Testament, and we are still living under that today. Jesus came about to fix that, but they killed him for it. Because if we were living under the rules of the New Testament, the world would be a completely different place. Because we would have the United States and all the other countries that have it already. They have unified health care, and their education is taken care of.
This is why fascist governments always try to take over religion. It's why Hitler appointed Reichsbishop Mueller as the single religious authority in Germany. It's why Putin has built a strong relationship between the Russian state and the Orthodox Russian Church. Or the Russian Orthodox Church.
And people need to understand that the conservative movement is all about enslavement and capitalism.
Yeah.
It's all about enslavement.
No, it really is. Tom, you said it very well. Thank you. David in Bandon, Oregon. Hey, David, what's up?
Tom, hey. I understand that fully a third of the oil going through the Gulf of Hormuz. What about the the fertilizer that goes through there. I'm wondering now what
it's huge.
Who are these fertilizer exporters?
Well, the thing is, an awful lot of fertilizer is actually made from natural gas. And you've got a couple of states in the Gulf that have massive amounts of natural gas, and they convert that into fertilizer, and then that fertilizer gets shipped out via the Straits of Hormuz. I don't know the percentage off the top of my head. I've read it recently. My recollection is it's between 20 and 30% of the world's fertilizer. It is not traveling right now and hasn't been for a week and a half. And if that persists, then what you're going to start seeing is famine, particularly in the third world.
Okay, what extent are we? Is this country dependent on that?
Very little. Very little. We produce most of our own fertilizer.
Is it mostly going to third world countries?
Most of it's going to Africa and Southeast Asia. Yeah.
So that's where the impact will be.
Yes, already is.
Third world.
Yeah, by and large, yeah. I mean, the poor people are always the ones who suffer, you know? Yeah, thank you, David. I mean, it's the old, when elephants play, the mice get crushed, and it's always the poorest countries that suffer the greatest when great powers decide to play these kind of games. But right now you've got Asia, particularly Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, all freaking out because they're looking at a disruption of their oil supplies, which are mostly coming through the Gulf, through the Straits of Hormuz. China, of course, is upset about this, but Russia is more than happy to sell oil to them. Same deal with India. So we'll see where this goes. It's not looking good for Trump, frankly. It's not looking good for America. And I'm inclined, Lev Parnas' thoughts notwithstanding, I'm inclined to agree with Timothy Snyder that Trump is doing everything he can to get Iran to hit us so that he can be like George W. Bush, the big guy after 9/11. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew both took cash bribes while they were in the White House. Since then, the Supreme Court, or at least 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court, made it a lot easier for politicians to take bribes with their Citizens United decision, which basically legalized political bribery as long as it's done through campaigns or PACs or super PACs. But for some people, there's just never enough money, right? Donald Trump has been running small-time hustles to make money for decades, selling sneakers, Bibles, steaks, vodka, water. But now he's hit the big time. He's got these fungible tokens, right? These fungible crypto assets, which are basically just digital pictures of Donald Trump that say fight, fight, fight. And he has turned them into an $8 billion machine. His wife is in on this too, with his Trump coin. It's a new way that foreign powers and billionaires in the United States can just shovel money into Donald Trump's pocket. There's a whole article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled Presidential Payola, The Evolution of Political Bribery. Check it out. Do you find value in the work that I'm doing here, that Louise and I and all the rest, all of our team are doing? If you do, well, and do you find value in the other programs here on Free Speech? You know where I'm going with this, right? If you do, please help us out. This is such an important time in American history, I would say in world history, frankly, but certainly in American history, and it's such an important time for Free Speech TV. We are trying to keep this network afloat. We're trying to keep them solid. We're trying to help them expand their listener base. And that requires money, frankly. And if you can kick in just, the cost of a cup of coffee every month, the cost of a dinner out every month, just some modest monthly amount that you can give to Free Speech TV, please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no navy, no air force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every dollar billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on Earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants. ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. Senator Jeanne Shaheen is the ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Jack Reed, she's a Democrat from New Hampshire. Jack Reed, the Democrat from Rhode Island, is the ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Committee. And they have both asked the Trump administration, I almost said the Putin administration, the Trump administration, Hegseth et al., to come speak to their committees about this illegal war that Trump and Netanyahu have waged or are waging against Iran, and also about why Trump is talking to Putin as Putin is giving Iran targeting information that so far appears to have killed at least 7 of our soldiers. Now, Cory Booker just came out and said each individual senator has the power to basically shut down the Senate for a period of time, to tie things up with procedural moves and calls for, votes and sense of the Senate. And, there's just all kinds of things that they can do. And he's basically saying, we're going to do that. We're going to basically shut down the Senate until we get some honest testimony before these committees about why this war happened, how this war happened, what the goals of this war are, and why you didn't come to Congress and seek approval, why instead you went to Netanyahu and Putin to get your approval. What the hell's going on here? I think it's great. I totally support them. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un is watching what is going on in the Middle East and going, ha-ha, I made the right choice. Multiple experts on North Korea, probably one of the most prominent one is a guy named Song Seong-jong. He's a professor at Daejeon University in South Korea. And he said, Kim must have thought Iran was attacked like that because it didn't have nuclear weapons, which I think is true. If Iran had succeeded a couple of decades ago in building nukes at the same time Israel was, I don't think that anybody would be, we wouldn't be attacking them. We would be afraid of them using their nukes. And Kim Jong-un is going, yeah, this is, and Trump now is even saying, I mean, this, not recently, this was a couple of months ago, Trump even said, he hopes to go to North Korea and have another meeting with his friend Kim. A murderous dictator who terrifies his people. That's exactly what Trump wants to be when he grows up. And Kim has an estimated 50 warheads and enough nuclear material to make 40 more. And Trump has repeatedly said that he would love to meet Kim. And Kim will be negotiating from a position of strength because he has nuclear weapons now. Iran doesn't. So keep an eye on this. Meanwhile, new secrets from the Epstein files. Jay Kuo writing at status quo, KUO.substack.com. 3 separate reports, one from the South Carolina Post and Courier, which is a newspaper in South Carolina. The second from the Miami Herald. And the third from the New York Post, for God's sake, the Murdoch-owned New York Post, all corroborate this testimony given by this woman to the FBI in 2019, who claims that when she was between 13 and 15 years old, Donald Trump raped her and her friend. Last week, the FBI released in fairly heavily redacted form 3 of the missing FBI 302 interview forms. But still missing are the FBI's notes from those interviews, which I think is, shall we say, rather telling. This is the woman who claims that when she was 13 years old, or maybe as much as 15, that she was in a room with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Trump told Epstein to leave, and then he said to her, I'm now going to show you how little girls should behave. And he tried to force her to give him oral sex. She bit his penis. He beat her up with his fists and threw her out of the room. This is the claim that she made. The FBI interviewed her 4 times. They took this very seriously. Now, the Trump folks are saying there's no there there. This is complete BS. She just made all this stuff up. She's hallucinating, whatever. But the newspaper, she claims this happened in Hilton Head, or at least she's from Hilton Head. And the newspaper from the South Carolina newspaper has looked into this and said that she identified an Epstein associate from Hilton Head Island, gave him his name. Her mother had rented a home to Epstein in South Carolina, which is where the Post and Courier, the newspaper, is based. One of the associates of Epstein, whom she accused of assaulting her, was an Ohio businessman. She gave them his name. He was, she said that he was affiliated with a Cincinnati-based college. Turns out the paper has confirmed that this man actually was a member of this for-profit college's board. She said that Epstein provided marijuana, cocaine, and pills to her and other girls. And the local newspaper documented that right around that time, there was this explosion of drug abuse among children in that age, 13 to 15 years old, on Hilton Head's beaches. She recalled encountering Epstein once at a Rick James concert in Savannah, Georgia, when she was 15. She said he got her drunk. The newspaper looked into this, and sure enough, Rick James was performing in Savannah at that time. And now they've found that her friend made similar allegations, saying Trump tried to rape her, or did. And now, so this is just like with E. Jean Carroll. I mean, one of the ways that E. Jean Carroll actually won her lawsuit against Donald Trump twice before 2 different juries, the first for $5 million, the second for what? Was it $80 million, as I recall? Was that at the time that Trump raped E. Jean Carroll, she told a friend about it. And that friend came in and testified in court and said, yep, she told me about that at the time. And that, massively increases the credibility of the accusation. Well, sure enough, this girl, when she was 13, had a friend, and she told her friend all about it. And her friend has told the newspaper, yep, she told me. And, I mean, there's no reason for her to lie like that. The Miami Herald separately reported, this is from Jay Quo's reporting, the Miami Herald separately reported that buried within the Justice Department's Epstein files is an explosive new piece of evidence. An agent within the FBI created a 5-page handwritten report of an FBI interview of Epstein's fellow inmate. This is when he was in jail while Donald Trump was president. Bill Barr was running the Department of Justice. This was a week after Jeffrey Epstein had had conversations with people about how he could blackmail Donald Trump. Now he's in jail. And the FBI put together this handwritten report of his fellow inmate who overheard the guards discussing Epstein's death. He heard one guard say, quote, "Dudes, you killed that dude," followed by a female guard by the name of Tova Noel saying, "Don't worry, we'll cover it up." She said, "If he is dead, we're going to cover it up and he's going to have an alibi, my officers." The inmate claimed that the entire wing heard the exchange, meaning that this story could have easily been further investigated by the FBI, and yet the FBI never chose to investigate it. They never chose to interrogate any of those prisoners who were there when Epstein was murdered, which suggests that the entire investigation was part of the cover-up. I mean, a legitimate inquiry wouldn't just gloss over a claim that the guards were talking about covering up Epstein's death and do nothing about it. And if that wasn't enough, the New York Post reported on some interesting finds of its own. This is a quote from the New York Post. The same female guard, Tova Noel, had searched the term latest on Epstein in jail twice, 40 minutes before the other guard found him dead, at 5:42 a.m. and at 5:52 a.m. So why at 5 o'clock in the morning is this guard searching whether or not Epstein is dead yet when she's sitting right there in the jail with him? And she reportedly received $5,000 in cash 1 week after Epstein's first suicide attempt, which Epstein, by the way, told authorities was actually an attempt to kill him, and an unexplained pattern of cash payments in the months before his death. Jay Cool writes, these cash transfers should have been huge flags to investigators, but once again, Noel was never asked about these during the official investigation. I'm telling you, if the Democrats can take the House or the Senate, or both, you're going to see some serious investigations into this. You're going to see this guard asked to testify. You're going to see Donald Trump go down in flames as a rapist of children. That's my prediction. Because this evidence is just every day more and more accumulating. It's 16 minutes past the hour. What's on your mind? I'll pick up your calls right after this. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
David Miller, the President of the United States, would really rather you didn't know. I'll be right back. And welcome back. Dave in Auburn, California. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, I just want to say, why don't we recall Fetterman?
I beg your pardon?
Put a recall on Fetterman.
Oh, you want to recall John Fetterman? I don't know if Pennsylvania law provides for that. I think basically what you have to do is vote him out of office, and that's going to be 2 more years from now.
2 years. Yeah. Well, anyway, just a thought. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Dave. Fred in Exeter, New Hampshire. Hey, Fred, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I just, as a reminder, I'd like everyone listening to know that we're at this perilous existential precipice because Merrick Garland ran out the clock, either because he was too timid or he was complicit. And it's maddening.
I don't think he was complicit. I think he was afraid of the Justice Department looking like it had been politicized. I mean, last time that happened, you'll recall John Mitchell, the Attorney General, who had, Garland's job, spent 19 months in prison.
True. I do have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Why is it that Americans, citizens of this country, are willing to tolerate all kinds of abuses, poisons in their food, our vote being taken away? I mean, if I heard you about winning the midterms, I think our idea of actually winning is very naive because, Trump knows his hide is on the line, and he's going to do everything possible to subvert that election.
And already is.
So it's he already is, and it's very naive of people to think that. But what my question is, why is it that in this country we are willing to tolerate all these abuses? We have lousy health care, privatized, you can go on and on down the list, our education, everything. But if this was France, they'd be tearing down, what is it, the Elysee de Palais over there. And here, and they do massive riots over to us, seem like really inconsequential things, like, you have to work another couple hours a week. Right. And the whole country goes crazy. And here, people die because they don't have health care. We have a dictator in charge. We a rapist that should be literally ripped out of the White House. It's unthinkable, and we just go along. And I even have some Republican friends I was playing cards with, and I don't even know if I can go back. They were kind of justifying that. Yeah. Well,
You asked why, Fred. Let me give you an attempt at answering that with 2 words. Yeah. The Murdoch family. There are 3 countries in the world that allow this kind of poison to be in the media. Fox tried to open shop in Canada. They shut them down. Fox tried to do this in Europe. I forget which country. They stopped them. France does not have the equivalent of Fox News. We do. We've got a 24/7 right-wing propaganda network that not only openly lies to its viewers, but brags about it in court on 2 separate occasions under oath. People from Fox News management have said, yes, we lie to our viewers. We do this because it makes us money. I mean, they're just right up front about it. So, in my opinion, that's what's going on. That's why the majority of Americans think that their neighbors are evil people, and the majority of Canadians think their neighbors are wonderful people, because we've got media that's telling us that our neighbors are evil people. And I think you can track it all back to the Murdoch family, who have made billions off this. Fred, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We'll be right back. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. People in the Rust Belt states know all about tariffs. They know that tariffs kept jobs in the Rust Belt states for centuries, literally, that America was built on tariffs. It's one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected in 2016 was because he talked about tariffs. But for some reason right now, the Harris-Walz campaign, or Democrats in general, are reluctant to talk about tariffs. They call them sales taxes or something like that. They really need to be a little more straightforward, because people, particularly in the industrial Midwest, or in the Rust Belt, as we call it now, are not dumb. They know what's going on. They know where we've been and how we got here. And I think it's pretty important to be talking about tariffs and what they are, how they work, and how they can bring manufacturing back home. I wrote a piece about it for Hartmann Report. It's titled, "Why Trump is Wrong and Alexander Hamilton Was Right About Tariffs." And I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating at hartmannreport.com. Check it out. Welcome back, 22 minutes past the hour. So what's on your mind today? What say you? Chris in Dallas, Texas. Hey, Chris, what's up?
How you doing, Tom?
Good.
Two quick questions. Why are Democrats pushing this false narrative as if Black Americans can't obtain ID or have ID to vote? So go against the SAVE Act.
What statistics will show you is that the poorer you are, the less likely you are to have that kind of ID. Number one. Number two, the more likely you are to live in a city that has a good public transportation system. My best friend, Jerry Schneiderman, lived his entire life in New York City, never had a driver's license because he never drove a car. The more you live in a city, the less likely you are to have that kind of ID. And, as a result of, centuries of economic oppression, Black people are statistically more likely to be poor in the United States than white people, and more likely to live in a city. So numerically, there's more poor white people than there are Black people, but as a percentage of the population, that's the simple answer to your question, Chris.
I kind of understand the logic, but with racism within America, Black Americans always have to have like some form of identification on them, just to live safely in some sort of way. Or
there's been no shortage of studies, many of them done by Republicans. I mean, this was the guy who co-founded the Heritage Foundation, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but this was Paul Weyrich. This was his big shtick back in the 1980s, was let's require ID because Black people are less likely to have it. And they had all the statistics.
Okay, well, my second question, with the recent loss of Jasmine Crockett and against Tallarico and her somewhat calling out the undercover racism within the Democratic Party, how do you think Dems will galvanize Black votes to come up with a win during the midterms?
It's a good question. I don't live in Texas, Chris, so I don't have my finger on that. I mean, we're on the air and a station in Houston and other smaller stations around the state, and so I get callers from Texas. But I don't know, Tallarico being white, Jasmine Crockett being not just Black, but a rock star, in Congress. And she had to give up her seat in order to run for the Senate, and she lost in that primary. I don't know how much damage that is going to do to the Black vote in Texas. What's your sense of it?
No, I'm not meaning like the statewide, because I mean like just period all over like throughout the United States. Do you think Democrats will pull off enough wins to gain some strength in the House or in the Senate?
I do. I think that people are freaked out enough about losing our democracy, losing our freedom, having American citizens being murdered in our streets by our government, and then the government covering it up by having a rapist in the White House. I think Americans are sufficiently freaked out about that issues like race or misogyny or any of these other kind of sometimes referred to as social issues are going to be secondary considerations. But we'll see. We'll see. Chris, thanks for the call. Beth in New Orleans. Hey, Beth, what's on your mind today? Oh, Beth, your phone is breaking up terribly. I'm sorry. No, it's not working. I'm going to put you on hold, and Mateo can figure it out. She's on line too, Mateo. If you could figure out what's going on there, and I'm down to 30 seconds here before the break, so I'm not going to put somebody else on. But to Chris's point, I'm waiting to see what Jasmine Crockett is going to do next, because I'm one of her biggest fans. This woman knows how to communicate. She should be giving lessons to all the Democrats about how to communicate. She is extraordinary. And I really think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for her. At least I hope so, because I think it's a big loss to all the Democrats, to our entire country, frankly, that she lost that. That said, James Tallarico, Texas is a very religious state. Not just Hispanic Catholics, but the Protestants, the white and black Protestants and Hispanics. And Tallarico was a seminarian. He was studying to be a priest, or a minister, and he's perfectly willing to talk about Jesus and call out the right-wing so-called Christianity. So I think he's got a good, solid chance there. We'll see whether he's going up against Paxton or
You're listening to
Senator.
the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
John Cornyn. We'll be right back. Stick around. There's not a lot of places you can get unvarnished opinion, you can get truth-telling. Not a lot of places you can call into and express your own opinions. Not a lot of places out there where there's open advocacy for democracy in the United States. We've got this abundance of right-wing sources, 1,500 right-wing radio stations, 300 right-wing television stations, 3 right-wing television networks. Multiple newspapers now under the control of right-wing billionaires. But on the progressive side, not much, except right here. This Free Speech TV is just a gift, a gem, this extraordinary thing. And it exists because of your support, period. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Go to freespeech.org and make your gift now. Thank you. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Is Vladimir Putin now calling the shots on Trump's Iran war? 9 days in, and Donald Trump is taking phone calls from Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Iran. The two leaders spoke for about an hour Monday. Putin's aide says his boss offered proposals for a quick diplomatic settlement, his words, after consulting with Gulf leaders and the Iranian president, apparently on Trump's behalf. Trump told reporters the war is very far ahead of schedule, that Iran has no navy, no air force, no communications. Oil spiked to $119 a barrel, though. Iran named a new supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, who's seen as even more extreme than his father. And Iran's foreign minister said negotiations may be off the table entirely. The IRGC said it, not Trump, will decide when this war ends. Putin leads a country that has been actively helping Iran. When the man helping broker America's next move is the same man arming the other side, Americans should be asking some very hard questions. Did 300 billionaires just buy American democracy? The New York Times analysis says just 300 billionaires and their families controlled nearly 1/5 of all federal election spending in 2024. That's called oligarchy. The total tab was almost $16 billion. Those 300 people put in $3 billion, averaging $10 million each. That's what 100,000 regular donors would give combined. For every dollar billionaires give Democrats, $5 went to Republicans. Elon Musk alone put in over $250 million. Trump has since appointed more than a dozen of those billionaires into his administration. Billionaire spending has exploded 12,000% since Citizens United was decided in 2010. They bought the government, and now they're running it. Will the Iran war push North Korea to build even more nukes? North Korea is watching the Iran war very carefully, and experts say Kim Jong-un is feeling completely vindicated in his decision to build a nuclear arsenal. The lesson Pyongyang is drawing is not a hard one. Iran had strong ties with Russia and China, but when the bombs fell, neither one intervened. North Korea already has an estimated 50 nuclear warheads. It has legally enshrined the right to preemptive nuclear strikes in its constitution. The attack on Iran tells every nation on Earth without nuclear weapons that they'd better get some fast. This war isn't making the world safer. It's a global recruitment poster for nuclear proliferation. Did Bob Kennedy pick someone who makes up research to review COVID vaccines? Bob Kennedy picked someone to lead the review of COVID vaccines whose own research has been called misleading by multiple scientific experts. Kennedy already fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replaced most of them with skeptics and conspiracy nuts. At least 9 of the 13 new members don't have the credentials required by the committee's own charter. That stacked panel has already reversed 30 years of CDC policy. 7 childhood vaccines have been stripped of their recommended status. 15 state attorneys general have sued to reverse these changes, and routine childhood vaccinations have prevented over 1 million deaths in this country since 1994, but apparently won't anymore. Kennedy is gambling with children's lives and dressing it up as science. Is Dr. Oz's real job to kick sick people off their health insurance? Dr. Oz, Trump's top official overseeing the Affordable Care Act, says Obamacare enrollment may be too high. About 23 million Americans signed up this year. Oz wants that number down to 19 million. He said, the fact that we have 23 million makes me think we have too many participants. ACA coverage is what keeps self-employed people, gig workers, and anyone without employer-funded benefits from going uninsured. Enrollment is already down 1.2 million from last year because premiums have skyrocketed. Oz wants to cut 4 million more. The man running Obamacare thinks too many sick Americans have health insurance. That's not health policy. That's a death panel with a TV show. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. You know, they wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted to change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these weird, they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still moving forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, you know, their ultimate talking document does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, you know, just they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the First, Fourth, Ninth, and 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Byron in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hey, Byron, what's up?
Yes, Tom. Trump keeps talking about how Iran is a bad actor, but to me, isn't the United States a pretty bad actor too? We've committed more human rights violations and war crimes than Iran has. Has Iran invaded any country like the United States has? Has Iran killed as many innocent women and children that the United States has? Has Iran ever tried to overthrow a democratically elected leader like the United States did in Iran in 1953 with the CIA, which is probably why they hate us so much in Iran? What's your opinion on that?
I'm not sure that there's much value in comparing the United States to Iran. Yes, we have a terrible record when it comes to overthrowing other governments. We have a terrible record when it comes to human rights violations. Look at what the Bush administration did, sanctioning torture, lying us into 2 wars that cost us $8 trillion and left behind 500,000 to 1 million dead people and 7,000 American soldiers. I get all that. That said, Iran is really a terrible regime. I mean, they have been funding what you essentially could call terrorism throughout the region. They've got a large footprint in Lebanon. They've been killing people in Israel. They've been they've been supporting the Houthis in Yemen. They've just been messing in a whole bunch of different countries in a whole bunch of different ways, not to mention the role that they've played in the United States with their cyber warfare against us. None of that, though, in my opinion, justifies just going over and dropping bombs on them. I mean, those are particularly when they just agreed that they were willing to give up their nuclear program and give up their ICBM ambitions in exchange for peace with the United States. This is an illegal war, and it's being fought for purely political purposes. Trump thought he would get some benefit out of this. He looked at how George W. Bush had his little war in Iraq, and it boosted his popularity. George Herbert Walker Bush had his little war in Kuwait. It boosted his popularity. Reagan had his little war in Grenada. It boosted his popularity, and Trump thought he could do the same. He miscalculated. But, I get what you're saying, Byron, but I don't think that's the appropriate way to frame it. Thanks for the call. Brian in Waterloo, Iowa. Hey, Brian, what's up?
Thanks, Tom. I want to talk about Medicare for All you talked about earlier. Yeah. I work for a private employer. Why can't they take my health insurance a month is $200 just for me? Mm-hmm. Why can't they cut my health insurance in half, donate that $100 to the Medicare program? I know I'm already paying in it. And also my employer pays $9,000 a year from my health insurance. Cut that in half. That helps the employer. And then throw that also into the Medicare pot. That way it's also paying for more of the Medicare pot. So that way the Republicans aren't screaming, it's costing too much to the government.
Canada figured this out, Brian. I mean, some back in the 60s, Canada figured this out. Saskatchewan did it first. It was done in an individual province, what we would call a state, and then it just spread across the country over the next 5 or 10 years. And everybody has coverage. Anybody can go to the hospital. You may have to wait a little longer than here in the United States for an elective, surgery or something like that. But emergencies are dealt with immediately. The medical care is great. Most Canadians love their health care system. And it costs half of what our health care system costs here in the United States. Our Veterans Administration, which is socialized medicine, it's like the British system where the government actually owns the hospitals and hires the doctors, costs a little more than half of what our private system is costing. But you've got Republicans and a handful of Democrats who are on the take from the insurance industry and have been for decades. And the insurance industry is making tens of billions of dollars a year in profits. And every single penny of those profits and every single penny of the millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that are paid to senior officials in those health insurance companies comes from saying to somebody, no, we won't pay for your care. No, you can't have an MRI. No, you can't have a liver transplant. No, we're going to, and it's just insane. It's just insane. We're literally the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care system, and we pay on average more than twice as much as any other developed country in the world for health care, and we get worse outcomes. Canada has a longer lifespan than we do. Canada has lower infant mortality than we do, lower maternal mortality than we do, fewer chronic diseases than we do, because they have a national health care system.
I thought that would be a good way for the Democrats to get the businesses on their side. Like my company has 100 employees times, $5,000 per employee that the company is going to save.
Yeah, back about 10 years ago, Toyota was going to build a factory here in the United States. You had 3 states competing for it. As I recall, it was Michigan, Tennessee, and some state down south, Georgia or Alabama or something like that. And they ultimately decided to put that factory in Canada. And the reason, and the president of the company came out, or the head of Toyota USA or North America came out and said the reason that they did it is because there's about $3,500 worth of health insurance expenses in a car manufactured in the United States. And when you look at the taxes that are collected for health care in Canada, it's around $1,800 a year. And so, they're going to build their damn cars in Canada. So it's the arguments have been made, and they're fairly clear. It's just that the BS, that gets dropped on us from our media and from these right-wing billionaires and the health insurance companies that are in bed with them is just absolutely massive. And that's the challenge that you face when you try to honestly discuss this with the American people. Brian, brilliant analysis. Thank you. Paul in Henderson, Nevada. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Hey, this whole SAVE Act thing, I think there's another part of that everybody's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going off of personal experience. So I was born with a name, right? I was adopted by a stepfather when I was 12 years old. I went to change it with an attorney when I was 18 back to my original birth name.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out 10 years ago when I applied for my passport, he never changed it back to my original birth name. So I actually had to go to court and file a name change to revert back to my birth name.
Wow.
So what I'm thinking is I have a whole folder that I would have to go in, the court case. I never took that final step of filing the thing to change the original record with California.
Right.
But I have a whole folder of what I went through just to get a passport with the name I want. And I'm sitting here thinking, what about all the hundreds of thousands of people that were adopted? Not just women.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of them can't even find a birth certificate.
Yep.
So I'm thinking it really is, because of my personal experience, I'm going, there's a lot more to that than what people are believing.
Yeah. Excellent point, Paul. I hadn't thought of that, but you make perfect sense. And, the bottom line is Republicans just don't want people to vote. They want as few people as possible to vote because they know that they've got basically upper middle class white people, and those people have their passports. They've got their paperwork. They can hire a lawyer without a problem if they need to do something. That's who supports Republicans. And so they don't give a rat's ass about the rest of us, frankly. Excellent point,
Yeah, because I remember somebody called about Real ID. I had to take that whole folder in when I got my Real ID.
There you go.
Even though I already had a passport.
There you go. And women who
There's
changed...
a lot more involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more. And women who changed their names when they got married are going to have to go through something very similar. Paul, thank you very much. Thanks for highlighting that. That was brilliant. Canyon in Renton, Washington. Hey, Canyon, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh.
Oop, what happened? Canyon somehow got... there you go. You're back on the air.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I do disagree with you on a couple things. One, you mentioned that if Democrats regain control of the House after the midterms, they'll reopen the Epstein investigations and the whole jail thing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If that's true, why didn't they do that in 21 to 23 or so?
Because the FBI had sealed the files.
Okay, gotcha. Then the other thing was, as far as the Tallarico, Jasmine Crockett thing, I think Tallarico is in a much better position to win that race than Crockett was. I feel like
that's what the polling seems to suggest. But there's questions about how accurate that polling was. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but she's also tainted with AIPAC money and other corporate money that he isn't. So I mean, there's a clear better candidate here.
Well, in that case, the better candidate won. So, I guess we should all be happy about that. I still I love Jasmine Crockett. I just can't, she's just so, she is so articulate. She is so good at just taking down Republicans. I want more. Canyon, thank you for the call. I get it. You're not a fan of hers. That's okay. We've got a big party. 45 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Carolyn Levitt's on TV, lying through her teeth. Amazing. Talk media for the sane among us. We'll be right back with more of your calls. And welcome back. I just saw that Beth's audio is good, but Beth, you're listening on Sirius XM and they're in commercial break right now, so I'll pick you up as soon as we come back from that. In the meantime, Ronnie in Dufour, or D-U-F-U-R? How do you say that, Ronnie?
That's right.
In Oregon?
It's Dufour.
Dufour, okay. I was unaware of that town. Where is it?
On the east side of the Cascades, the Columbia River Gorge area.
Oh, okay, cool. So what's on your mind?
Well, I'm sorry. I was talking to your coordinator when that other person was talking about the SAVE Act, and maybe he's already addressed what I want to talk about. But number one, I'd like to say that, yes, I'm totally for universal health care for all. Whatever that costs us more in taxes, it's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what it's going to cost us if we have a major medical problem.
Yeah, and it actually, there are savings that more than balance that out, because, your employers aren't paying for health care, you're not paying for health care.
Exactly.
Yeah. And every developed country in the world has proven that now. It's indisputable.
And we would be healthier, too, because people aren't going to not go to the doctor because they can't afford the office visit.
Correct.
And then Jasmine Crockett, I'm also a fan, but I agree that Tallarico, I think, is probably more electable in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. But back to the SAVE Act, I totally get why the Democrats are arguing against it. But in these times where the whole thing with immigration and illegal immigration was such a big deal for Donald Trump to win that the presidency, I'm wondering if the Democrats should take the position that, yes, we do want just, American citizens voting, especially with all the voter fraud, misinformation that's out there, but to get the middle of the roaders to come over to our side, to say, yes, let's have an ID system in place, but here's some amendments to that bill that will make it much more affordable and a lot easier for all those people that don't have that to get it. I mean, if we can afford, $24 million per rocket that we're dropping on Iran, certainly we can help pay for our citizens to get the ID that they need to vote.
Right, but Republicans don't want that, and they will fight that to the bitter end.
Right, understood.
So but it's going to be all or nothing, Ronnie.
It's still worth saying that, we also agree as Democrats that only American citizens should be allowed to vote.
Oh, there's an absolute consensus about that, and every state has a law that says that, or words to that effect. And I think that what the Democrats need to be doing, and they're doing a piss poor job of it right now, is they need to be pounding the fact that the Heritage Foundation looked at every single election nationwide from 1979, 1989, right up until 2020. And they found a total of 22 people who had voted who were not citizens. 22 out of billions of votes cast. And we just need to pound that. I mean, it's not even being disputed. The Heritage Foundation found it. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times reported it. But on Fox News, not one word about it, not a peep. And we've got to figure out a way to break through or break past this right-wing propaganda operation that's being run by these right-wing billionaires, particularly these foreign billionaires like Fox News. Ronnie, thank you for the call. Great to hear from you. It's 10 minutes before the hour. I'll be right back with you. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Human beings have a couple of unique characteristics. The first is that we can be very tender and loving and concerned and caring toward people we perceive as being our group, us. We can also be extraordinarily violent against people that we consider to be them, if we think of them or this other as a threat. Probably the classic example of this is Adolf Hitler convincing Germans that, Jews were a threat to them and good Germans going along with the Holocaust. Well, this othering is built into our DNA. This is, ancient stuff. And the Republican Party, since the time of Nixon, when he started, picking up the white racist vote after Democrats laid it down in the 60s, the Republicans have been using this to try to other minorities in America as a political strategy. And this is really deadly stuff. There's a whole op-ed about it over at HartmannReport.com. Is othering human nature's deadliest instinct? Check it out. Welcome back. 9 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Ken, let me put you on hold. My apologies. I had promised Beth she would be first in line. Beth, what's on your mind today in New Orleans? Oh no, your phone is breaking up again. Take a shot at it, Beth.
Okay.
Oh no, it's not. Beth, I'm so very sorry. I should have picked you up. I'm going to put you on hold and let's see if you can work something out with Mateo. We do have a couple open lines right now if you had to call right back, but I'm going to put you on hold and then let me pick up Ken in Grand Prairie, Texas. Mateo, Beth is on line 2, by the way. Ken, what's on your mind today?
I got two things for you. One, the report that came out that Donald Trump had sexually assaulted a 13 to 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, wasn't Michael Cohen his fixer at that time?
I don't know.
And did she also not drop a case against them as well? And could it have been fixed? And Michael Cohen being part of that.
She did not have a case against them. She went to the FBI once. They brought her back 3 more times. She was interviewed 4 times. On the 4th interview, she pointed out, when they started getting into Donald Trump, she pointed out that he was president, that she had already gotten death threats from people as a result of her name being leaked, that she was talking to the FBI, and that she was terrified, and that she was unwilling to risk having Donald Trump come after her. And so she hired a lawyer and told the FBI, if you want to talk to me again, talk to the hand, talk to my lawyer here. And so that's where that was left.
Okay. So should we not also bring Michael Cohen in, who may have known what was going on back then?
Yeah, if you could trust him.
I don't think he has anything to lose.
Maybe. I don't know. There's been a lot of Michael Cohen bashing going on lately. He got this big fight with Lev Parnas, and as a result of that, he got dumped from the Midas Touch people and whatnot. But and I'm not even sure if Michael Cohen's time with Trump overlaps that time. I mean, that was back in the 80s. I think Michael Cohen only spent about a decade with Trump, and it was far more recent. So I don't think so. Ken, thanks for the call. Bob in San Jose. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind today?
Well, I've noticed something because it's hard not to notice it. In this area, gasoline prices went up by 25% in a month. Gasoline that was, $4 a gallon is now $5 a gallon.
Wow.
And I believe diesel fuel has gone up proportionately as well.
Yeah, diesel fuel has gone up even more nationally.
Okay, and look at jet fuel, which is, from what I understand, a mixture of gasoline and kerosene. Again, proportionally going up.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a very regressive tax.
Yep.
That's happening,
and all that money, by the way, is being collected by the fossil fuel industry, and it's not costing them a penny because they're not importing any of this. So they've got domestic production that costs them $50 a barrel to produce, and their price just went from $60 a barrel to $100 a barrel or $120 a barrel. They're rolling in dough right now, which is exactly what Trump had promised them. If they gave him $1 billion, he would make them rich.
That's what my question was. Where is the money really going? And it's obviously the pockets of some people who own large amounts of shares in those companies.
That's right.
But, I'm looking at what is that going to do to people who are working class people who have to get to work somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's going to be a real challenge. I mean, I'm hearing it from my people. It's like, you know, the price of gasoline is spiking, and you know, it's a tough one. Bob, thank you for the call.
Also,
that was very.
I think there's. I'll say two other things. One is I believe there's a ratchet. They go up very rapidly, but they do not go down as rapidly. Number
Correct.
one, and number two, I want to mention that today I've been listening to you through WCPT through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that radio station very much.
Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Rich in Central Woolley, Washington. Hey, Rich, what's up? Rich, listening on Sirius XM in Central Woolley, Washington. I am not hearing Rich. Oh, there he is. Rich, you're going to have to be quick. We're just about to the end of the hour. That is not working. I'm sorry, Rich. Your phone is not happy. And we still have a minute? Oh, we don't. Okay. Yeah, we're just about out of time. So, bottom line here, let's all pay very careful attention to what's going on. We have Donald Trump being told by Vladimir Putin how to run the country, how to run the war, and Putin, in the meantime, is helping Iran kill our soldiers. He's already killed 7 of them. This is something that every American should be just furious about. Thanks so much for being with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the folks around you. Stay safe, and I will catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
We say fight back!
Last chance of the day here, at least with the Thom Hartmann program, to register your approval of the work that we do, to let Free Speech TV know that you're finding value in the work that I do every day, and support this network. There is so much misinformation out there, so many lies flying around, and sadly, an awful lot of the really good stuff, a lot of the good programming and good writing is behind paywalls. But here at Free Speech TV, it's all free. It's all here for everybody, and a relatively small percentage, probably a single-digit percentage of our viewers support this television network, as is typical with nonprofits. And therefore, we need your help. If you haven't contributed yet to Free Speech TV, please go online now, freespeech.org, or call 877-378-8669 and register your voice, your vote, and help us keep this network going.